So as we all know, I tend to consume a lot of media, whether it be film, TV shows, anime, games, novels, etc. But I think more than ever, I've been more infatuated within the world of manga than anything else. And over the years, it's slowly but surely been growing on me more than any other media out there. And I think that's definitely been presented with just how much more I care about manga than anything else in my recent videos. Granted, that's kind of what my channel is surrounded over, but you get the idea. Anyways, I think now more than ever is probably the perfect time to take one of these types of videos into account. Summer has already taken its toll and everyone out there is trying to find new manga to read. Because let's be honest, half of you would rather do that than go outside. Some of these titles are a bit newer and have definitely piqued my interest in some way or another, and also a few being just a little bit more relevant, but overall, these are just an amalgamation of series I just have yet to talk about on the channel, or just would rather save for a video like this one. And if you do end up finding a series on here intriguing, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because it's more than likely I'll be doing this again in the near future. So there's actually not that much to read from this first series, because factually it does only have one chapter as of right now looking back at it, but the title of it is, and I most likely will butcher it, but it's called Gokurakugai. The series is centered around our two main characters who are considered to be what is known as a jack of all trades, meaning they both have been around the block a few times and have dabbled in many aspects of work and skills. The manga did have a one-shot that came out just over 2 years ago, and as of last month, the series has finally been confirmed and dropped the first chapter to what I believe is its monthly chapter release. The setting of the story is set in the lovely and remarkable Red Light District, which by the way looks phenomenal with the style of the series. And I would have to say that the first thing that definitely stands out about this series is its artwork. Both the story and artwork are done by Yuto Sano, who has worked on quite a few things that usually is never a shadow of a doubt about how amazing the artwork can be. Both Alma and Tao, our main characters, practically are up for any task and are usually called around for quite literally anything. There's not necessarily a job and or mission they can't accomplish. And there are some supernatural aspects to the series that I think makes a good twist on this type of story and setting. So without getting into too many spoilers, I suggest you check it out for yourself and let me know what you think. So next we have another series I can't ever pronounce the name of, but that's okay because I can say the English version instead. Soara and the Monster's House is a series bounded in the world of fantasy and adventure, but it's really nothing at least I expected going into it, and it definitely is a little bit different from any other ordinary fantasy series you would typically get into. Our main character is used to being a human warrior all of her life, but then suddenly the era of war and tyranny is over and her warrior assets are really not needed anymore. And instead, Soara, our main character, sets out to find her way of what it means to find herself and what it truly means to find a home. Along her journey, she's intrigued by the idea that there are people out there that would do things for others even if they just so happen to not even be of the same kind. Introducing our other main character, Kurogane, and his group of dwarves who are dead set on constructing homes for those in need, because as I mentioned earlier just a moment ago, there just so happened to be a war that had won in the humans' favor. But a lot was lost too for others that just weren't so lucky. So in short, it's simply just a tale of building houses for myriads of creatures and monsters, because after all, everyone needs a home. Our next series is also a newer title within the magazine of Weekly Shonen Jump, a series I just got into not that long ago, so I decided why not throw it in for the video. But RuriDragon is a short series as of right now with a lot of potential for the magazine. Granted, again, it is Weekly Shonen Jump, so you never really know what you're in for when it comes to reading a new series. But we all know how it works. One week it's doing good, the next, well, not so much. Yet so far, this series has been kind of great. Our MC Ruri, well, you guessed it, is somewhat of a dragon. Her mother is human and her dad is, well, he's a dragon. And in a world with typically not too many weird things to come, Ruri is just trying to learn how to use her assets from her father's side of the family, gaining new traits and dealing with those abilities while all the more tackling the life of a high school student. There's been a few underlying themes going around so far which would have been better saved for a different video and full explanation, but it's 100% there and I've been enjoying every single bit of it. Kind of just using the quote-unquote theme of a dragon to go about insecurities within our real world and just changing the body in general. And I think just overall it's just been a really wholesome and fun read so far, and I hope to see the series go far in its endeavors. And again, I wouldn't put something on this list that I didn't think people would enjoy, so go ahead and give it a shot. Moving on, we have Kurogane no Valhallian, and it really does surprise me how many people are unaware of this series, considering the fact that a lot of the aspects about this series are usually what people in the manga community tend to gravitate more towards. For one, the story and art of the series is done by Toshimitsu Matsubara, with his previous most known work being Rikodo, I think that's how you pronounce it. And it's interesting because anytime I tell anyone about this series, they're usually pulled in by the art because of the similarities it has in style towards both Vagabond and Kingdom, which actually isn't shocking in the slightest considering Matsubara Sensei worked as an assistant on Kingdom in his previous years. But more on Valhallian itself. To say the least, this manga takes place in the time where empires and war from any time period could be at their peak. Tetsuchiro Soma, our main character, is a Kamakura warrior who had one of the best survival chances during the Mongolian invasion. But suddenly, one day he woke up in an unfamiliar environment, not knowing what was to come next. He found out very quickly that he was in some place he wasn't supposed to be in. That was the case until he was told by our other main character, Hurust, that he's actually dead and that she is the one who brought him here in the first place. And essentially, they're in the place where the best of the best warriors go when they die, Valhalla. But in order for him to be revived, Tetsuchiro now has no choice but to fight against the dead warriors from different areas in this mythical place of carnage that he's been thrown into. With the series going on so under the radar, it would be a shame not to check it out, so I highly suggest you do. Now, this next manga is a series I've only really dabbled in a bit, but from what I've read so far, I'm fairly confident in its skills to change up the game entirely for the world of magic and fantasy within a series. And the manga is none other than Hat Atelier. This series is centered around a world where everyone takes wonders like magic spells and dragons for granted. And sometimes things just want to be simple. And for our main character Coco, she's simply just a girl with big dreams and ambitions to someday become a witch. But everybody knows magicians are born and not made, and Coco was not born with a gift for magic. Resigned to her magical life, Coco quickly learns to give up on her dream of someday becoming what she truly desires of being a witch. That is until the day she meets Quifri, a mysterious traveling magician who is a caring and patiently waiting teacher. And after secretly seeing Quifri perform magic in a way she's never seen before, Coco begins to learn what everybody knows might not be the truth about the world of magic and mystery. So soon to become, she discovers that her magical dream may not be as far away as it may seem to be. It's fairly short and sweet, and off the gate, the artwork is nothing but outstanding, and just overall a great introduction into a series that tackles magic. And I think sooner or later, if not already, there is an anime announcement for it, but I'm not entirely sure if that's correct. But it's still really new and getting attention just all around the board, so if you ended up checking it out, let me know. So next, and many of you probably already know about this series, considering I made a video on it not too long ago that did quite well, but I thought it would be cool to talk a little bit more about it because since the video came out, the series has been getting more and more attention for all the right reasons. And the manga I'm talking about is Gachiakuta. I won't go super crazy in depth on the series just primarily because, like I mentioned, I made a whole video dedicated to the synopsis of the series, but I'll make sure to leave a card on the top right corner for those of you who are interested in that video. But essentially, it's a manga with heavily influence from Atsushi Okubo's Soul Eater and Fire Force, with a story that reminds me of something reminiscent of a ton of shonen manga, but taking a new approach to its setting and power system, which, let's be honest, that's probably the best way to tackling a shonen series these days. I was definitely debating whether or not I should even put this series on the video today, but again, considering the fact that the manga is still relatively new, I believe as of this recording, it's around a chapter 20 or so, and it's doing just as good as it is, both in terms of its story and popularity, I thought I might as well at least mention it because I definitely don't think you should miss out on this manga. Moving on, we have a series that can be told as one of a try-hard series, or even something someone would describe as a kid who no doubt needs to touch grass. Shangri-La Frontier is a manga about a second-year high school student, Rakuro Hizotome. These names, man, it's quite literally interested in one thing only: finding shitty games and beating the hell out of them. His gaming experience and skills are truly second to none, just like yours truly, and no game is too bad for him to really enjoy. So when he's introduced to the new VR game Shangri-La Frontier, he does what most of us gamers usually do. You know, skip the prologue and hop straight into the meat and bones of the game and take on whatever comes our way. By doing what he does best, min-maxing everything and just getting straight into it. And unlike most series I get into, I tend to never really have an idea of what the plot is going to be about. But the reason why that kind of was different for this series is just because the main plot of the series was actually, and fun fact, something I had an idea for a while ago when it came to creating a series for myself when I was a lot younger. But that never really went anywhere, so now we're here, I guess. But can even an expert gamer like Rakuro himself discover all the secrets that Shangri-La Frontier has to offer? I guess you might just have to read it for yourself and find out. Now, typically when it comes to the sports genre, I'm not the biggest fan of more say the sport, but the themes tackled when dealing with said sport. But for this series, I've heavily resonated with it on so many different levels, and to my mind, and anytime I get the chance to talk about this manga, I'll do it. And for a video I think I put my heart and soul into, I believe it's only right to recommend this series of Blue Lock. I've talked about it before, and still to this day, the way I look at it, it's undoubtedly my best work when it comes to making a video on it, and Blue Lock is a manga all about the sport of soccer and redefining what it means to play the sport. It consists of strikers and only strikers, and putting them into a facility with the only intention of creating the one and only best striker to bring on Japan's soccer team to win the World Cup. It's quite the series because not only does it question your whole idea of teamwork, but it brings you to understand more of the logic of being able to truly take a different route and watch how things progress in between. A lot of the time, people tend to just drop this manga because they see it as idiotic in a way and just the way they tackle the topic of soccer. But again, that's exactly what this series is trying to present, and as you continue to read, you will start to slowly really realize what it truly means to surpass your limits and expectations within a manga. So if you're up for the struggle, I suggest you check out this series because in the end, it really does take things to a whole new level. So likewise, most of these manga are fairly something new and innovative, but I thought why not also recommend something that feels a little more reminiscent of a few popular series most of us already know about. For one, if you're someone who is familiar and or a fan of the tournament genre that I guess you could say has been making a wave these past few years or so, series like Record of Ragnarok, Kengan Ashura, Tokyo Duel, or even Baki, then this series I think would be right up your alley. The manga is called Majo Taisen, a series written by Homura Kawamoto, creator of the well-known and popular Kakaguri, and the art is done by Makoto Shiozuka, which this series seems to be his takeoff debut with a few other projects under his belt. So essentially what this manga is about is practically taking the concept of Record of Ragnarok of gathering a longitude of witches throughout time and throwing them into an arena to contest for the sake of pleasing the Demon Queen's will, and in hopes of obtaining what they truly desire. But if I'm being honest, this series is literally dedicated to those who love to see 2D women fight at their peak, because you know, and I know for sure, what they're all trying to accomplish with a series like this. So let's just take it as it is and enjoy the hell out of it. And finally, I think when it comes down to it, all these manga have potential, but nothing like what this next series has to offer. Choujin X, as I feel like most of us are aware of, is written and illustrated by Sue Ishida, the well-known and popular mangaka of Tokyo Ghoul. Ishida has this way of presenting paneling like no other, and with Choujin X, that feeling feels just as unique as the next. I saved Choujin X for last because it is something I've actually been letting build up due to the scheduled release of the series being solely dedicated to when Ishida wants to drop chapters, which honestly I think should be much more normalized within the manga industry. But to fill you in on what Choujin X is about, pretty much it's set in a world where not many people have these distinct abilities that define them as Choujin, but I like to look at it more as a quote-unquote darker My Hero Academia in a way, just because these powers are similar to what quirks are in My Hero Academia. I'd say it goes without mentioning that the symbolism in this manga is great to be on par with Ishida's Tokyo Ghoul by being able to start the story with some of his finishing aspects, so key things are set up from the jump, which if you ask me is really hard to implement right within a story. Tokyo, our main character, goes through changes in revealing his Choujin powers, and as the story progresses, learns and evolves with it. Setting up plot points for the future is an Ishida essential, and with how the first chapter is executed, it's to purposefully plant the seeds for them to sprout at just the right time in the manga. I'd love to dive more into it, but I think I'll save that for a future video to come. So until next time, maybe for another recommendation video in the future, but for now, this has been Augie, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.